Today, I wanted to give some tips of what I learned from doing my first industrial drone flight. 4 things that I think you should have, and then we'll go into why you need each thing. The first thing is a handheld camera. So in addition to your drone, another camera that you can walk around with. Second is an aerial view of the area you're going to be. Third is a way to measure any of the distances in that aerial view. And the fourth thing is putting together a plan of attack and verifying that. So let's start with the camera. One thing you may find when you get to the site is that there may not be enough distance for you to get the image of the entire building. Now, this is an industrial example, but it can happen with residential properties as well. And that is there's just another building too close to where you want to take the picture. So having something like a Canon R50 with a wide angle lens will help you out in that situation. Another thing to keep in mind about having a handheld camera is if you do real estate and they want you to do a walkthrough of the building, you're going to want something like a gimbal that will keep that camera steady and allow you to do videography. Using something like a Canon R50, which has a display on the back that can flip up, that allows you to easily walk through the house and see on the screen what's being recorded as you go through. Personally, I have a Canon R5, but the Canon R50 is much less expensive, and that way you can have some really good glass that you can put on there and kind of balance out that price point. The second thing is an overhead view of the area you're going to photograph. First thing is it will show the areas where you're going to have those pinch points where you can't get in there with your drone and get a good picture. Now, when I did it, walk around with the drone flying next to me, I did. Kind of look like something out of a Star Wars movie with a little camera floating alongside. But again, there was just some areas where there was no way I was going to get the entire building from the side, even with the wide angle lens on the handheld camera. But by using that wider angle lens, I was able to get the picture from a different angle. Now, the lens I was using was a 24 millimeter. The lens on the drone is a 29 millimeter, but I could push myself up against a wall where it really wouldn't feel comfortable trying to push a drone up that far back to get the picture. Another thing with this particular job was the right in front of the building was a 4-lane highway. Now, while I could pop out there and get a snap with the camera, I wouldn't feel comfortable having the drone out there because if a truck came by on the other lane, even though I wasn't in that lane, it could blow the drone down. And I really didn't feel comfortable having a drone flying for any length of time over a roadway. So the pictures that I had back were over the other side of it. I always made sure that I didn't stay in the roadway, but having that hand camera allows you to do that. The other thing is a way to measure out where you're going to be. Now, this comes down to a miscommunication between what I had planned and what the client wanted to see. So the client was looking for things around the area, which to me, taken from somebody who was working in a warehouse that had an office in it, I was thinking, all right, they probably are looking for what's around it for like restaurants or gas stations. If they're getting shipments in, is there a good gas station nearby? Is there a railway nearby? What facilities are there around that would support either somebody who was going to the office and having to travel out for lunch, Or from a building perspective, what's around it that I could expand? How easy is it for trucks to get in and out? How close are fuel stops for the trucks? So that's what I was trying to keep in mind as I was taking the images. That's not what the client wanted. What the client wanted was images taken from a distance with the building very small in the center, showing the area around it. So having that aerial image, again, that you had before, and a way to measure out, like, how far away is this parking lot, this area that I could stage my photo shoot from, how far away is that? Do I think that's going to be enough distance? Keeping visual line of sight means that even if I was in a parking lot, I could still kick the drone back quite a ways and still be able to see the drone at 400 feet and get the images that the client wanted. But having that game plan of, there's my overview, I've got a parking lot here, I've got a parking lot here, I don't have one to the east and west of where I want to go, so I'm going to have to work from the parking lot and then really push the drone back to the point where I can barely see it to get those photographs. It's a valuable thing to have going in, which leads to the last thing, and that's that game plan. What is your idea of what the client is asking for? English language isn't necessarily the most descriptive or clear communications that we have. So having those images and then saying, okay, well, here's a aerial view of the image, or even just what, let's say, a menu of things you could use, kind of like posing that a normal photographer who does portraits would do, where you're going to give the client a selection of what they could use and help them pick out the best thing. You could do the same thing here with drone photography, in that, okay, I'm thinking that the center point here, I'm going to shoot out from it, or do you want me to shoot with the building really close in the center and see things out? Or do you want me to shoot from a distance with the building quite a bit away that you can see a wider swath of property around it? Again, being an industrial setup, especially if they're trying to sell the building, you're probably going to want to think about, where could they expand? How easy is it for a truck to get in? As well as the attractiveness of the building itself, which may or may not be as critical, but it depends on what the building's going to be used for. If they're going to use it for a storefront, they want it to look relatively nice, and they want to have enough parking around it to use it in that fashion. So these are things to keep in mind, and also to ask the client, what is it exactly that they're thinking that this building is going to be used for? And the answer might be whatever we can get a renter for. Then keep all of this stuff in mind. Make yourself up a checklist of things that you can propose to your client, of different angles and shots, and make sure that you go with the client and figure out what it is that they're looking for. Now, as I said, I made an assumption, bad idea, based off of what I was told as to what images the client wanted. And then I just went and shot, which meant that I needed to go back and reshoot to make up for that misunderstanding that I had. So 4 things to keep in mind if you're going to be doing drone photography of at least industrial buildings, probably real estate as well. Make sure you have a handheld camera. If you're going to do real estate, they're probably going to want a walkthrough of the building itself, which you could do hand holding the drone, but I think you're better off getting a regular gimbal to take that handheld camera and use that for those purposes. Making sure that you've got a good sense of the area from using aerial views that you can get off the internet. Making sure that you can measure things out and see what you've got. I mean, if you're doing a residential area, there might be trees in the way that are going to impact your ability to even use the drone to take certain photographs. And finally, once you've got that all looked out, figure out your game plan and talk that over with the client to make sure that the client agrees with your approach. And if it's somebody you might be using again in the future, make your notes, put them aside. So if you ever work with that client again in the future, you have a good starting point. You know where they're going to go. So that's what I got for you this week, and I will talk to you guys later.